All right, hello everyone. It is Cameron, your internet finance bro. Today's topic is, should you get a financial advisor? The short answer is, it depends. It depends on your financial position. It depends on where you're at in life. But we're going to get into all of that and more in this video. First of all, let's talk about the pros and cons associated with hiring a financial advisor. The con, and there's really only one of them, is that you have to pay someone to do this. You are putting money out of your pocket into someone else's for this service. That is the only downside to hiring a financial advisor. The benefits of hiring a financial advisor, I think, are pretty obvious, but the big one is that you can spend more time with your friends and family, and most importantly, you can spend more time focused on what you're good at. You can delegate this task of money management to someone who is good at it while you are focused on your job, your career, and what you're good at. The other big benefit, of course, is that this individual should be, in theory, more competent than you when it comes to financial matters and managing a portfolio and preparing you for retirement. One thing I do think a lot of people get wrong when it comes to financial advisors is that a financial advisor's main purpose is not to maximize your returns. That is one of their jobs. That is part of the job description, certainly. But the primary function of hiring a financial advisor is not purely to maximize your overall aggregate return. There's a lot of other important factors that go into long-term financial planning, to include a big one, that is taxes. Long-term tax planning can be just as beneficial, if not more beneficial, than a couple of extra points per year on your aggregate annualized return. And a good financial advisor will help you with tax planning long-term. That could be through retirement account planning. It can be through more complex tasks like the efficiency of rebalancing a portfolio and when to rebalance your portfolio to maximize gains, but still also manage your specific risk profile. And a good financial advisor is going to help with the planning aspect of all of this as well. They're going to help determine what it is you're trying to achieve long term, and they're going to back you into that. They're going to say, okay, you want to retire when you're 55. You want to have X amount of income in retirement. Well, we need to adjust that for inflation, and then we need to determine how much you actually need to save. And based on prevailing market statistics, we believe that you could generate XYZ return. And if we calculate all of that out, you need to save X amount of dollars. You need to allocate 10% here, 20% here, 50% there, so on and so forth. You kind of get the picture. But a financial advisor's job is not only to just manage your money and allocate it into whatever mutual funds. It's also to actually help you plan out your future in the short term, midterm, and long term. The question is whether or not you actually need that. I argue for someone who's fresh out of college, doesn't really have a lot of savings, is on the early stages of investing, that as long as you're doing what everyone tells you should be doing, right? Maxing out your 401k, putting money into retirement accounts, saving additional money into some kind of broad market index like VTI or the stock market at large, S&P 500, whatever suits your fancy, you will do just fine. And maximizing your return by a percentage or two up or down really isn't going to do a whole lot for you when we're talking about probably a few $1,000s in total savings. It's not really until you have quite a bit of money that hiring a financial advisor starts to make sense. Number one, because most financial advisors, especially good financial advisors, aren't going to want to work with you if you have $10,000 in your account. Chances are, if they do want to work with you, they're trying to sell you some kind of product that they're going to get a larger commission on, and they're not actually going to help with a whole lot of real financial planning. That said, once you have, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, you're getting into the ballpark of real returns on your money. In a single year on $100,000, you could be looking at, $20,000 of additional income generated on your portfolio. Maximizing that and maximizing it tax efficiently does start to become important. The question is, how much sophistication do you have? I personally don't really need a financial advisor. I know most of this stuff. I was a financial advisor for a couple of years, so it doesn't really make sense to outsource that particular task. But for someone who is, say, a doctor or a lawyer, or someone who is not constantly dealing with general financial topics on a day-to-day basis and is not as privy to all of the ways in which you can shelter yourself from taxes, all of the ways in which you can invest your assets to maximize returns, I think for a lot of people it makes sense to hire a financial advisor. I think even for a lot of people, though, that are fairly sophisticated and actually do know what they're doing to whatever extent, could still benefit from a financial advisor, and that having someone in your corner is beneficial, right? Being able to bounce something off of someone in any particular field is beneficial to whatever degree it is. The question becomes, how much is it worth paying this person for the advice that they're giving? And this is where I would argue that if you're on the earlier stages of saving, maybe you're 25, 30 years old, you've saved up, $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. You're starting to see real returns in your portfolio and you're trying to maximize efficiency. It could make sense to sit down with someone and simply pay them for their time. Say, hey, do you offer consultations? And if so, how much is that consultation? Is it $500? Is it $1,000? That to me makes a lot of sense, to sit down with that person, simply pay them for their time, get their opinion, let them walk through your particular financial situation so that they have a good understanding of what it is you are trying to accomplish, and just get their opinion. Whether or not you use it doesn't really matter, but then at least you have a professional opinion on what it is you should or shouldn't be doing, and it can kind of help direct the flow of your portfolio long term. I think also finding a financial advisor who's willing to take some kind of consulting fee is generally really beneficial from a fiduciary standpoint. That person has nothing to gain or lose. They're not selling you anything. They're simply selling their time. They're selling their expertise. And for that, you're probably going to get a very direct, real response as to what you should be doing. They're not trying to sell you a product. They're not trying to get you into the highest commission product. They're not trying to get you to give them all of your assets to maximize a return. They're simply giving you their advice. They're giving you their honest opinion as to what they think you should be doing with your capital. And if you find a good financial advisor, they'll sit down with you, talk with you, understand where you're coming from both a long-term, short-term, and mid-term perspective with your goals and expectations, and then they can help you actually align what you're currently doing to meet those goals and long-term expectations. So long story short, I think right around the $100,000 net worth number is where it really starts to make sense to potentially at least look at getting a financial advisor, talk to your friends, talk to your network, see who's local and around you, and start exploring your options. See what you can achieve for how much, and start getting some advice on your portfolio. I think that's the number where it really starts to make sense, because you do really start to see large returns. Tax strategies really do start to make a difference, and paying someone, a few $100s to maybe $1,000 or so could be really beneficial over, a multi-year period, just to get another professional opinion who might have some insights to help you long term. Because the thing is, you don't know what you don't know. So anyways, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to follow, give this video a like, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.